All right. Well, hello there, everybody. My name is Ginger Birkenbeuel. I'm so excited today. We are doing our very first live stream for CPASS Foundation, and we're going to be talking to an amazing medical student named Niyi Soetan. And this is going to be a really exciting conversation to really understand the journey of this medical student, Niyi, and I'm excited to talk to him about it. I'm going to read a little bit about him before I bring him on and ask him some questions. But Niyi Soetan is a third-year medical student at Rush Medical College, focusing on emergency medicine and medical education. Niyi's inspiring voice of the Black Men in Medicine hashtag, which is dedicated to increasing diversity and facilitating change at Rush University Medical School, as an active member of the Racial Justice Action Committee. Niyi's scholastic achievements guide him as a Region 2 Director for the Student National Medical Association, giving him a wider platform to promote his passions of social justice and education. Join our candid conversation right now so we can understand how he's shifting the face and future of STEM for the better. Welcome, Niyi.
Hey, thank you for that great introduction.
Well, how is everything going with you today in general before I start sort of asking you questions about your journey? You know, we're in a pandemic and, you know, we're in a pandemic. It's really a wild ride. Are you getting rest? Are you feeling still rejuvenated and hopeful? How are you feeling in general?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm lucky that I get to go to the hospital. I know it's work, but it's a way like I see a lot of my colleagues do something that I really love. So for me, it's getting out of the house and helping others. So I feel really good.
All right. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And I'm so grateful that you're on our show today to talk a little bit about your journey as a medical student. So I'd love to know, Niyi, how old were you when you knew that you wanted to be a doctor? This is the perennial question, right? Everybody wants to know. Like, were you 2?
I was not the child that was born with a scalpel in their hand. I think that I would say when I was really considering it, it was like probably 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, 14 years old, that's pretty good. So that would mean you were either an 8th grade or a freshman in high school.
Yeah, freshman in high school.
Okay, so not before that at all. Like you had no vision.
Yeah, before that time, I actually thought I'd be like a psychologist maybe, because I had really liked talking to people and would just like chat with my friends about their lives. So I was like, oh, this kind of feels like the way I should go. But then freshman year of high school, I took a biology class, and I just like loved the subject, everything about it. So I was like, I'm going to combine helping people with biology, and that's awesome.
So it sounds like for you, it wasn't an expectation, right? Because there are people that go to medical school, and it's really because their parents said, oh, yes, you're going to medical school.
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't that. My parents were not doctors, and their grandparents were not doctors. So it was very much like me making this new decision for medicine.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely wonderful. So when you were growing up, I mean, did you feel different? And I say this because I'm not a doctor, right? A lot of the clients that we have at my agency, but also that are affiliated with CPASS Foundation, you know, they're really brilliant, they're really smart, and many of them wanted to be doctors. And but I'm just curious, did you feel any different as you were growing up? I mean, did you feel a little bit advanced? Because I feel like when I talk to people that go to medical school, I don't know, I hate to say they're smarter because then that's not fair, right? I hate the word smart. I don't like that word because you don't want to be someone to say, well, you're just not smart. But did you feel special or different, or did you kind of know you were not going to, you know, like just, you know, have a regular job 9 to 5?
I knew that I was like a good student. I don't think I was a photographic memory, like never forget anything, like all A's. But I did know that as far as jobs, I was going to do something that fulfilled me a lot more, and that wouldn't be through money. And so I felt like I had this calling to do something bigger than myself. I know it's like a cliche kind of thing people say, but that was what I felt.
I love that. I love that. So when you were going through school, okay, 14 years old, you're like, okay, I took biology class. I loved it. I'm like, this is my path. Were you accepted in that way? I mean, did you have friends that were around you that were just like you and really interested in academics? Was there pressure to do other things that were not academic related? Was your family like, okay, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I was, my goals were really accepted. I'll say, especially first off with my mother, an incredible woman. There was never, it's hard, it's long, anything like that. She was just like, you should pursue it if you want it. So I got immediate support from her. And as far as my friends, I was lucky to have a good, like, core group of friends that even if they weren't doing medicine, they saw the value in school. And that's not just like honor students. That's just people who know our education matters.
I absolutely love that because education matters. I mean, I feel like that should be the hashtag too, right? Black Lives Matter, education matters, Black wealth matters. I mean, it's like, I mean, I love that. So did you have any special programming as you were going through school? I mean, did you have any involvement with, like, for example, Rush University has a mini medical school, right, which CPASS Foundation just acquired. Were you involved in anything like that? Did you have things that you were doing at camp, or was your mom saying, oh, you know, we need to put you in IT programming coding classes? I mean, what was going on when you were a kid?
Honestly, the most that I did as a kid was be enrolled in like AP classes.
Okay.
Just classes we could take for college credit. And my mom always pushed me to take the more advanced classes because she knew I could do it and wanted me to get used to using my like intelligence to its full potential.
Well, your mom sounds amazing. I mean, I'm like, who's your mom? What's going on? We need to, she's like definitely knocking it out. So, so your community of friends, were they interested also in medicine, STEM, science, math? I mean, you said you took a lot of AP classes. So it's one thing to be in the classes because you should be there because, you know, you're good at school. It's another thing to have people there because they're really interested and passionate about it, right? It's like people that are in art school, they're surrounded by people that love or are passionate about art, people that are dancers, like everybody around them is like, oh my God, I want to be a dancer. I want to go to New York. Was it like that for you?
I definitely did. I have one good friend that stands out. His name is Taylor, and he's also a Black man currently in physical therapy school, getting a doctorate in that. And at the time in high school, he was also thinking medical school. So we both like kind of could lean on each other to stay accountable. And looking back, to have found another Black man pursuing this that early was more rare than I realized, especially being in Arizona.
Wow. Okay. So wait a minute. I did not even know Arizona was where you came from. So you were in Arizona doing all this?
Yeah.
Wow. And you came across another Black man that's incredible. That is incredible. Yeah. I mean, Arizona has a whole slew of, challenges, although I was pretty happy, this year about Arizona. Arizona pulled in. So, interesting. So, well, now that I know you're in Arizona, it's probably unlikely that you had a Black doctor as a child. A Black pediatrician or Black dentist?
Nope.
Not at all. You never saw a Black doctor?
Like, I knew they existed, but never saw.
Well, how did you know they exist? What, on TV? I mean, what do you mean you knew they existed? Like, is that your imagination? I mean, what do you mean?
Yeah. In the concept of just knowing, I was like, there's no way, nowhere in the U.S. there's a Black doctor, even if I'm not seeing them yet. And that was about the best I had.
Goodness. And that's why we're here. I mean, literally, that's what the CPASS Foundation is all about. I mean, that is it. It's like, we have to have more. So, when you were in high school, in medical school, did your interest stay rock solid or did it wane? I mean, I have 3 sons and their interest right now, I have 12, 14, and 16. And that was a tough time, right? That's the time when you start falling off of whatever your parents are telling you to keep doing. Yeah. Just really curious about you. Did you maintain your interest and were you self-directed? I mean, it sounds like you didn't have a whole lot of mentorship. There wasn't a lot of, you weren't, like you said, you were not raised and surrounded by doctors, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you stay the course?
I think, honestly, it was just, I'm going to go back to my mother. It was support from it. If I was ever lacking as a student, She's like, you said you want to be a doctor, so you need to work. You can't coast and make it. So she would keep me motivated, and I knew I wanted it. As a high schooler, there were definitely senioritis in it, and I was like, oh, I don't know about like how much I want to work in college, stuff like this. But luckily, I never truly left the path.
Okay, that's tremendous. So where did you, where are you in college now, right? I mean, because it doesn't sound like you didn't have a guidance counselor that was specifically involved in medicine. Like you didn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound like you were surrounded by doctor world, doctor family, doctor people. So like, where did you go to college? How did you even figure out what to do with college? I mean, did you have to do a lot? You must have done a lot of research.
That's where you're wrong, unfortunately. I applied to Arizona State because grade acceptance is great. They offered a certain amount of scholarship money. I was in state. So I actually missed the application deadline for the honors college there. So I was taken as a regular student, just on scholarship. And they were like, we'll pay for most of it. I was like, done deal.
Oh my God. I mean, and I think that pretty much, says it all, right? I mean, I feel like one of the challenges that all, many Black students have trying to get to college is, number one, how do we pay for it? Number two, if we do figure out what we're doing, how do we get there? Who's going to help us stay there? All the things that are happening in school that are just not part of our existence at scale. I mean, there are families that are, there's plenty of Black families that are, second and third generation college, but just in general, it really does become a challenge. It's mostly financial. It really is a lot of financial stuff, right? So once you hit college, I mean, congratulations on that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you navigate through the classes with the teachers? I imagine that at the college you went to, it wasn't 50% Black. I mean, it wasn't a historically Black university, right?
Yeah.
So how did you navigate as a Black man through college, especially one where you are in a medical, well, I don't know, you were in the medical field. I mean, you're in, right? I mean, how do you get through all that?
Yeah, so when I was starting, I kind of like took the major of biology because it's a good like pre-med one.
Okay.
And so I was like, if I get this degree, I know I'll hit the prereq for applying for medical school at least. I had a counselor, but Arizona State is like a huge college for anyone who doesn't know. So there are thousands of students per advisor, and we are forced to meet like once. And it's kind of the very typical advisor story where they're like, oh, if you get a B, you might want to reconsider like what's going on because medical school is very hard to get into. So I kind of had to ignore that and or focus on getting the best grades I could possibly get in the classes.
Wow, and it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, I feel like, so far so good. I mean, you're doing great, but your process to get there is extraordinarily difficult. I mean, I just think that from my understanding from all the stories I've heard from the people that started the CPASS Foundation, it sounds like they had a little more support than you did. And that was a long time ago. I'm trying to figure out what happened. Like, where did there's like a gap now, and it's a gigantic gap, Okay, so you made it through, and you're making it through rather, and you know that you're kind of, you're tooting your own horn, and you have firepower that you're generating, right?
Yeah.
Did you even go to college with the skills needed to study? I feel like one of the things I've learned about medical school is that there are study processes and strategies that Black people that are in medical school didn't walk in knowing how to do, and they didn't have friends to tell them this is what you need to be doing, and this is how you can get around this, and this is how you can be more efficient, and things like that. Do you feel like you were prepared in high school for the rigor of this kind of study?
I feel like I was prepared up to the basics.
Okay.
But there was definitely a wall I hit sophomore year, and that wall was organic chemistry. That was when the cramming method of like, oh, I did the homework, now final year we do this all the night before, very much did not work. I actually got a D on one of my OPM tests, and I was like, oh shoot, like this is not working anymore. Like, and I had never, like you said, had the tools to have a regimented study plan, know the best way I do study, because I outlined everything. I was like, take notes, it's in here somewhere. So I definitely was not as prepared.
So how have you been able to transform your process around that since that experience? I mean, how did you do it? Did you get help? Did you ask somebody? Did you talk to other medical students and say, here, let's go sit down? I mean, were you just like, you know, silently like alone trying to figure this out?
Once I got to medical school, I had kind of like reflected on how I had done in those classes. And I was like, you know, I could have really blown this before I even got here. And so I was like, I need to sit down, I need to figure out what I really like to do for studying. And it was trial and error, for sure. Medical school is a lot of content. People come in, they change their study habits. You're just not prepared for the content enough.
Yeah.
And I found out flashcards are like an incredible thing for me. Spaced repetition. If I see things enough, my mind will put it together. And I realize when I watch videos, I actually remember a lot better if I'm not so focused on the writing, and I actually just listen to what they're saying.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I think that it's good that you have the kind of mind that understands the way you learn best. I think some people don't really pay attention to that. I also think you have a goal and you have a very clear purpose. And so because of that, you're very intentional about what it's going to take for you to get to the end. And that's really important. On the downside of that, when I think about how difficult it is and how much work there is in the lift of studying and the learning and the remembering, and not only that, but you haven't really even gotten to the place of superpowered networking, right? That you have to do to even get your job. I mean, that's just a lot to do when you're on your own, especially when you're about to become a black man doctor. I mean, that's a whole thing that hasn't even been addressed quite yet. But I'm excited about what you're saying because clearly you're gonna make it. I mean, you have everything that's needed. It just makes me wonder, you know, when there's an organization like CPASS Foundation, which is really dedicated to ensuring access and providing networks and resources for Black medical students, you know, like yourself, you know, what different of a world we'd have if we had more resources and more organizations like CPASS to support young men like you as they go through and journey through medical school. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, I didn't have a Black doctor either, but I ensured that my 3 sons had one. So our pediatrician is a Black man, and he's amazing. And it's just been a very different experience, you know, having him as one of their doctors versus some of the other doctors they've had. It's a completely different conversation. There's recognition, there's understanding, there's the whole sort of, you know, there's just a much more of, there's just a more authentic relationship, right? And this is why I'm excited that you're going through and, you know, on your path and journey to become a doctor, because we need more men like you. Especially now in this pandemic. This is insane that we're here and there's hardly any Black male doctors, you know, that are helping us. So I'm really curious. So, you know, white students in medical school, they have a lot of processes, tips, friends groups. They've got everything. It seems like it to me. Did you notice that when you've been in school? Are you seeing these connections that they're having that you don't have? Or are you just so nose down that you're like, look, I don't know what's going on. I just got to hang on and get this work done. What's happening?
I think the biggest thing that I noticed is the amount of white students that have positions in the family, whether it's their parents or it's their grandparents, family, friends. In some way, that like generational wealth that like what people have had the time to make, it shows up and you notice. Whether it's research paper, they know someone that they can throw their name on if they like edit it for them or something like that. Connections for Black students don't usually go as deep. Like some people it does, and that's great. But to see like students with families show up to their white coat ceremony with their white coat, and see at least like 20 parents that are doctors now, it kind of like sees you into they have had guidance to get here also.
Wow, what must that feel like? I mean, it's really interesting. It's on the one hand, it has to feel, you know, when you get to that point, it has to feel like an incredible accomplishment to know that you made it through without all that. You know, on the other, you know, it's got to feel great. On the other hand, you're just like, wow, when is it going to change? When is it going to change? I mean, this is like, I should not be the only one out here, right? Interesting. So I want to move on a little bit to, so you're at Rush University. What strategies did you get, or what did you put together to land this opportunity? How did you get to Rush from Arizona? And don't tell all your secrets. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, how do we inspire young people to say, oh, so this is how you do it, right? I mean, so let us know.
I think it is, you need to understand there are numbers involved in it, like GPA, MCAT scores, but you need to think about who you are as an entire applicant, including like shadowing opportunities. Like I made sure it looked like I had done a lot of different things. So I shadowed an orthopedic surgeon at Mayo. So I got some OR time. Then I volunteered at a pediatric hospital. So I was like, I've seen like how peds work. And then I scribed in the surgery department to show that I knew what healthcare work was like. So that way when my application is read, they're like, this is a person who knows what the field is. And that's what a lot of people don't have when they apply. And schools notice that. And they want people who have an idea of what they're getting into because it's hard, and they want people to finish. And then just knowing your diversity it's a tool, like it's an action. It was not a handicap. Like you're not in school only because you were Black. You were a great applicant, and the cherry on top is that you're a person of color that can help outcomes of patients of color.
Wow, that's really something. So, you know, you mentioned, I mean, I think about my own career and the struggles I had getting internships, right? Walking into 100% white spaces.
Yeah.
And them not even knowing I was Black until I showed up. So I think that I don't really think it's that easy to get, you know, opportunities that you're describing. Did you have referrals or recommendations? I mean, or how did you even get to the place where you had that chance to then say, oh, I'm here and I'm shadowing this doctor? Because I think that's something that when I was speaking with Dr. Eric Whitaker, who's one of the, you know, people involved with CPASS Foundation, finding an opportunity to shadow is not that easy, especially when you're Black.
Yeah, so this is a good story. It's actually a like, very good example of like serendipity. So I was playing in an intramural like high football league at ASU, and I like landed in a weird way, and my knee like kind of popped, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Fast forward, I get this whole workup, and they're like, you think you tore your ACL, and I was just like, oh, I don't need this. Like, this is terrible. Like, I had just like done poorly on some test I took. My girlfriend at the time broke up with me. So I was like, this is too much.
Everything's happening at once, right?
But I went to sports med doctor, And she's like, you know what, let me call ASU's orthopedic surgeon that's here every once in a while and see if he can just quickly see you. And it was like 2 p.m. And she's like, you know, he has an appointment at 3:30 if you like to run over there. So I like go over and I see this guy. And he's just like, oh, like talking about everything. He's like, well, you're interested. I was like, oh, medicine. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, you know, if you ever want to shadow me, like I work at Mayo, I do surgery. He's like, your leg is messed up right now, but after it's done, you could like probably like do a couple OR days. So if I had not torn my ACL, I probably not would have never met this guy because I didn't know where else to go. Yeah.
You know, and I guess that's really it. You know, everything happens for a reason. I mean, someone's looking out for you, right?
Yeah.
But what if you hadn't had that happen? How would you have landed an opportunity like that? I mean, you're coming from Arizona, for Pete's sake, and you know, you're in a very white environment where you're not developing a network of Black professionals that are in school, because there are schools that have networks of Black professionals. Yeah. How would you possibly, would you even have known to shadow in the first place?
I would have had the thought to shadow, just like as my primary care, is probably the best I could have done. I think that's a good place to start for anybody, because you can just ask, like, do you let students shadow you? And hopefully, when you ask your PCP, even if they don't, they'll be like, oh, I know this person that does. As a Black student, you may push a little bit more and be like, I really need to find someone to shadow.
Fascinating, fascinating. So I have 2 more questions for you, because I know that this is the end of your long day. Okay. But I want to understand, what would you tell a very young aspiring Black student, especially a Black male student, who's interested in a STEM career, for things to look for and what to avoid? Or maybe there's like, maybe everything's on the table. What would you share?
Things to look for are definitely spaces that accept you. And I mean that in the sense that they don't tolerate you. They don't bring you in because they need to. Like, they want you in those spaces. So being at Rutgers is kind of how they are. They celebrate diversity. They meet the numbers that they need, but they keep going for more. And that's like kind of what you want to see in an institution you go to. And as far as what to avoid, you just need to avoid all the talk. People are going to tell you, you got into school because you were Black and made it easy. They're going to say things like that, even though they never say that to a student whose parent is a doctor at that place, which is probably a very real reason they should go to that place. But people will feel way more comfortable confronting a person of color, saying that's the only reason they got in. So you just definitely have to ignore what people say. You're wherever you are because you're qualified.
I think that's excellent advice, because when you end up getting finally into the real world, there's just going to be more of that. Yeah. So developing, you know, a thick skin around that is critical. I mean, when I was in art school studying brand marketing, you know, I was the only Black student. I was the first Black student, and I cannot even tell you, outside of you know standing and having your work ripped into by other students just because they thought it wasn't good. But then there's the other idea of that conversation of, you know, the only reason you're here is because of that. It's not because you have any talent. Right. And that just doesn't get better, you know, as you grow on through your career. It just becomes a little bit more subtle and nuanced, but it's always there, right? So my last question to you is, what makes you really proud to be a Black man in medicine?
I think the thing that makes me most proud is how much I had to do to get here and how my Black patients understand. And when I walk into a room and I'm their provider, like, there's relief that I can see in their faces. Like, this person will listen, they'll take time. I've had patients tell me, you're the only one who explain like this. And it kind of just recharges me, fuels the fire even more, and like, my place here is very purposeful and it's very movement.
You know what? I love that, and I hear it, and I feel it. I feel it all the way down on my toes. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I will say that when I took my sons for the first time to their pediatrician, who is a Black man, I felt like, wow. I just felt like a just relief washing over me, you know. And I felt very proud, and I also understood what he must have gone through to be where he was today, you know. Yep. But, you know, thank you. This was such a wonderful conversation. I'm so excited for you. I would love to meet your mom. She sounds like, I mean, she sounds like a queen. She's like, you know, you're going to do this. You're going to get it together. I mean, I'm dealing with that right now with my little one. So thank you so much for taking the time, Niyi. And I'm going to take a quick picture if you don't mind. You know, it's like the two of us here. I really loved this conversation. I'm so excited for you. I'm very proud of everything that you're doing. And I do love, and maybe let's look at the camera and say, I love everything that Rush is doing. And they're so lucky and fortunate to have you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. We'll talk again. I want to have you come back and meet the team on CPASS Foundation.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.